What's up, YouTube? Zazubaar here. Halloween, a day of terror, monsters, candy, and epic battles. Yeah, sure, you can spend your Halloween getting candy, getting arrested, or watching scary slasher movies, but I spend my Halloween watching horror icons beat the ever-living crap out of each other. Whether it's Kong and Godzilla, the Alien and the Predator, or Freddy and Jason, watching two horror icons go at it Mortal Kombat style is the coolest way to spend Halloween. But where did this Monster Mash tradition start? Well, of course, the same place where the classic monsters became famous. Good old Universal Pictures. Yeah, you know, making Dracula, the Mummy, and all the classic monsters famous. But they also started the tradition of having these icons coincidentally get into a big laboratory and fight to the death. However, this didn't happen until Universal had amazing commercial success with their 1941 film, The Wolfman, starring Lon Chaney Jr. as the title character, and also as Lawrence Talbot. Now, all the monsters had their share of sequels, and Universal didn't want to break the cycle with good old Wolfie. Or the box office returns, for that matter, but whatever. So they quickly went to work on a sequel, and in that sequel they decided to pair him with another of their cash cows, monsters, sorry. And who else but probably the most famous, the Frankenstein monster. And one of my favorite horror films of all time, appropriately titled, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, released in 1943. The film is, as I said, a direct sequel to The Wolfman, and also follows the Frankenstein saga pretty well, too. So in terms of continuity errors that a monster movie fanboy can pick out, there's very few, aside from the usual Wolfman stuff, and don't worry, I will get to that. So anyway, the film opens in a classic spooky, windy cemetery at night during a full moon. Classic. Walking through the cemetery are two men in all black, and they head directly towards a certain family tomb, marked Talbot. Yeah, we're getting started now. The two men, who are grave robbers, I guess, break into the tomb, wanting to steal some money and gold jewelry off the corpse of Larry Talbot, who was killed at the end of the Wolfman. They pry open the coffin and are shocked to find that the body is in extraordinarily good shape, more like he's asleep rather than dead. But also, the coffin is filled with wolfsbane. Now there's one thing I never understood. What effect does the wolfbane have on a werewolf? I mean, does it kill them, make them stronger, or just make pretty decoration? Well, let's refer back to that classic poem to try and find out. Even a man who is pure at heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the moon is full and bright. I'm going with the decoration one. Yeah, I have no idea. They never explain it. But it doesn't succeed at all in weakening him if that's what its purpose was, because as soon as he's exposed to moonlight, he returns to life and immediately metamorphosizes into the Wolfman, killing one of the grave robbers while the other one runs away. I guess from the plot, because we never see him again, or even he's never even mentioned. So if a constable finds Larry unconscious in a dark alleyway with a bad skull fracture, and we never find out why, but whatever. So he's taken to a nearby hospital, and it looks like Wolfie did some traveling before he got knocked on the head, because when Larry wakes up, he's in another town called Cardiff. The doctor there is played by Patrick Knowles, and his name is Frank Mannering. And don't forget that name because it has later relevance. Also, Patrick Knowles also played a character in The Wolfman. Not the same character, but just a little thing to note. So Larry wakes up and inquires where he is and how he got there. The doctor says some weak bedside manner, bull crap about resting and getting better. However, there's also an inspector there who's a lot more interesting to listen to, who wants to know his name and where Talbot came from. So this scene was basically exposition, and unlike a lot of other scenes like this in other horror films, it's more necessary, and it really doesn't drag on as other films do. Because they waste no time in showing us another scene when Larry changes into the Wolfman. And unlike the first Wolfman film, this transformation scene is actually good. They use time-lapse photography to show the transformation, and it looks good enough for 1943. In fact, it looks great. And the classic Jack Pierce makeup, what can you say? It's just as great as ever, and it isn't too cumbersome for Chaney to pull off some nice acrobatic moves. And the way Chaney moves in general as the Wolfman is really creepy and looks convincing. So anyway, the Wolfman breaks out of the hospital and creeps around the town. He's eventually confronted by a constable who he obviously kills, with a few rips, bites, and tears. The music in the scene is also appropriately creepy, yet still frickin' epic. If you're also a Godzilla fan, you may recognize it from King Kong vs. Godzilla, Yeah, the music from Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman was recycled for the fight scenes in that film. Anyway, so the nurse returns to Talbot's room in the morning and is shocked to find the window open and Talbot all messy on the bed. Shut up. The doctor and her redress his wound and fix him up. Then he wakes up in a fit and raves that he killed the constable last night and that he did it by turning into a wolf. Shockingly, no one believes him and they believe him to be insane and they put him in a straitjacket. This is definitely one of my favorite scenes and it's Chaney's performance that makes it. No one can rant and rave like him about curses and murder. Also, overall, Chaney's performance as Talbot rises above horror movie cheese and camp. It's truly a great character, and I really felt bad for him because of this horrible animal he has inside. He doesn't want to kill people, he just wants to be a normal person again. But he also doesn't want to be stuck in a hospital where everyone thinks he's crazy and he'll just keep killing people. So one night, after turning into Tall, Dark, and Hairy, he escapes again, but this time for good, and goes to find someone who he thinks can help him. Meanwhile, the doctor has gone out to find out Talbot's past, and discovers what we already know. Talbot was killed, and he believes this man to be an imposter, till shockingly he discovers that Talbot's body is no longer in its tomb, and the body of the grave robber is found, and after a cheap examination, is determined to have been killed the same way as the constable in Cardiff. Next we see Larry entering a gypsy village looking for a woman named Maliva. Yeah, from the first Wolfman film. He finds her and she too is shocked to see him alive. But if she knew the werewolf legend so well, why didn't she sort of guess that eventually he might return to life? Whatever, I guess she was thinking of melodrama. Anyway, Talbot begs her to help him find a way to die so he can find peace in death and be rid of his werewolfism. She says that she knows someone who can help him and she'll watch over him until he can be granted death. And guess who they go off to find? Dracula? No. Mr. Hyde? Oh, stop it. The Gill Man? Oh, what the hell's wrong with you? Maliva and Larry go off to find Dr. Frankenstein so we can help Larry die. The two arrive in Visaria, which was where the previous film, Ghost of Frankenstein, ended. However, they're shocked to learn that both Dr. Frankenstein and his infamous creation were both killed. Larry is obviously extremely disappointed. That's really the only way I can describe his emotions. I mean, he just kind of sits down and wallows in his own self-pity. And the villagers don't really want any strangers around who are interested in their tormentor. So while they're leaving, the full moon rises and we get another excellent Wolfman scene, with that epic music again. I like how there isn't really long gaps in between the scenes with the monsters, which is a credit to the film's pacing. And good pacing is the mark of a great monster movie. There's always just enough time spent with plot development and scenes of terror and action. So the Wolfman runs off into the woods and Maliva goes chasing after him. But she loses him in the darkness of the woods, and the Wolfman manages to kill another girl. But off-screen, of course. Come on, that's the second kill to happen off-screen. I know that blood and gore were a no-no back then, but still, you can at least show the attacks. Whatever, so the villagers form a riot and go after the Wolfman, actually at first thinking it's the Frankenstein monster. However, they eventually corner him, and one guy actually manages to shoot him. But obviously it doesn't do anything much to disorient him. The Wolfman falls into a pit, however, which is some sort of frozen cave. Losing exposure to the moon, he turns back into Larry and passes out. He wakes in shoes! Oh my god, these continuity errors were funny in the first movie, but now they're just annoying. If the werewolf was barefoot, Talbot should be too, when he turns back. Whatever. Talbot explores the cave and finds Guess Who frozen in one of the walls. And if you say Mr. Hyde, I will cut you. He finds the Frankenstein monster and digs him out to help him find the notes in the diary of Dr. Frankenstein. Shockingly enough, the monster is played by Bela Lugosi. Made famous in Dracula and was actually supposed to play the monster in the original Frankenstein. But he turned it down and made way for Boris Karloff to become famous as the monster. So here he is, more than 10 years later, playing the role he was originally supposed to. He does a good job, but there are a lot of times where it's noticeably a stunt double playing the monster, who looks nothing like Lugosi. Including the very first shot of him, it's not even Lugosi. Anyway, the monster guides Larry to Frankenstein's library and shows him a picture of Frankenstein's daughter, Elsa, who Larry believes can help him find Frankenstein's notes. So Larry organizes a meeting with Elsa, changing his name to Taylor, and lying, saying he wants to buy her land, so obviously she doesn't, suspect him. She refuses to show him where the notes are, and instead invites him as her guest to a local festival. Yeah, because, inviting someone to a party is definitely better than letting them feel eternal damnation. So the two go together to the party, and it results in another Talbot meltdown, because there's a song being sung near them about living eternally and never dying. Talbot flips his shit and says that his only wish in life is to have the chance to die. Again, Chaney's performance makes this scene very effective and shows a man who is no longer a true member of society. However, this is broken up when Dr. Mannering from earlier in the film shows up and talks to Larry. Larry asks him to help him find Frankenstein's notes and even do the actual procedure of drawing energy from Talbot's body. He doesn't really agree, he just keeps making logical answers to whatever ravings Talbot throws at him. Then conveniently, the monster takes a little stroll in the town and scares the ever-living crap out of a couple of villagers. I guess he got bored of just sitting up in the castle. So the villagers start chasing the monster, and Talbot grabs him and throws him onto a wagon. In a very amusing scene, the monster is sitting on the back of a cart and starts throwing barrels at the pursuing villagers. Now we all know where the idea for Donkey Kong came from. Anyway, the two go back up to the castle, and after some extremely tedious dialogue, the doctor makes a deal with the villagers to destroy the monster, and then makes a deal with Talbot to use Frankenstein's newly found diary to drain off Talbot's life force. So blah blah blah, to make the long story short, he gets the monsters into a big lab and straps them down to do the experiment. However, it wouldn't be a horror movie unless something went wrong, and true to form, something does. Well, not much though. Stuff just randomly starts to explode, and the Frankenstein monster returns to his original strength. He breaks his table straps, knocks the doctor unconscious, and then tries to kill Elsa. Then, oh yeah, the time has come. The full moon rises right about then, and Talbot turns into the Wolfman, and he too breaks the table straps. Then, hell yeah, the Wolfman leaps at the monster and knocks him over. Then it is on. And holy crap, it is the greatest monster battle of all time. Okay, it's the second greatest monster battle of all time, but it still kicks ass. The Wolfman leaps around the lab, and the Frankenstein monster knocks stuff over. It's not only entertaining, it's freaking epic. A highly recommended horror classic, and the first and one of the best Monster Mash movies of all time. Everything fits. The plot makes an unethical sort of sense. The monsters are more than classic. The performances go above and beyond the horror Call of Duty, and overall, it's truly one of the greatest. If you haven't already seen this classic, go see it now. I can't say any more. So again, have a very, very happy and safe Halloween. Zazubaar out.